DDAA.
Welcome to my channel.
Dguima.
We discuss here, no panel. Whatever I do like. I don't like the taste of flannel. For sure it could be medicine. For sure it could be a new scene. Fuck this bullshit quarantine. It doesn't always have to mean anything. Oh yeah, I'm feeling it.
Welcome to my channel. My name is Dguima. I'm going to talk about spirituality, the occult, and creativity. As well as touch a little bit on shamanism and magic in general. When I was about 17 years old, smoked a lot of weed. I was out with my friends. We're blazing. We're having a couple of beers and stuff. And all of a sudden, I space out completely. It's like I see a word floating into the air, and that word broken down into other words, and the definitions, they broken down over and over again until I was flooded around by words. Like one word was rooted to the other and was rooted to the other. So I'd like to go back and think about, why is it so important to talk about word definition and the dictionary, for example. Our whole world, it's based on a dictionary, the definition of words. Even if you are someone that does not have access or have never read it or, took the time to be like, let's see what the dictionary says about this. Chances are the scholars, the people that govern you like it or not. Trust me, I hate the state of politics and the way the world is right now. But these people, their world, their reality is based on the foundation of the definition of those words. Again, because they're scholars, the diplomacy, the credibility that they have, it's based on institutions that believe and preach those definitions. With that said, going back to what we're talking about, I'd like to read you the definition of reality by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Thank you. So reality, the world of the state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. Oh boy, that really drives me nuts. Okay. As they actually exist. All right. Who is to say what exists and what does not exist? And as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. As I touched base before, the whole way of how words are described and defined in the dictionary is based on the notional idea and the idealistic interpretation of editors of a certain place. Trying not to make this too confusing. When you look at the word existence, is the fact or state of living or having objective reality. Whoa, hold on. As they actually exist in reality, in existence, or having objective reality. So both words are connected. Existence and reality. It's thought that in order to be real, it has to exist. In order to exist, it has to be alive. Where does spirituality come into this? Very simply, very simple. The more people explore their spirituality, not the quality, not the religion, the concept perhaps, the more we understand that there are forces outside of us, around us, that perhaps are not alive, or are alive in a different spectrum and are interacting with us. You know, spirituality, spirit, you know. Some people, like the great of the greatest, Hermes Trismegistus. For people that don't know who Hermes Trismegistus is, Hermes Trismegistus is what people believe was the person that, you know, the legend of Merlin is inspired on. But there's also the god Hermes from the Greek philosophy, which is also associated with the god Thoth from the Egyptians. But he's part of many that believe that there is a great spirit. You know, we are all interconnected. You know, humanity and the living beings of this planet, as well as the whole universe, might be a whole entity. And when people talk about being connected to Source, or having a connection to the supernatural, perhaps they're just a little bit more connected to their own nature, which our leaders, the people in power, and some of the people that have been in power for thousands of years behind the veil, that did not, you know, waste their time running for president when you have two candidates. But, you know, I'll make sure that I'll talk about politics another day in another episode. But that connection to Source, it's a very important aspect of spirituality. And there are vehicles or tools that have been used before in ancient humanity. Some people like to call them spirit guides or ancestors that come in and communicate with us on a regular basis. And that is an aspect of reality. And where does shamanism come in? Which I think is very important. And there's very, very a large renaissance, not only of the occult, which, going back to Hermes, Hermeticism, you know, it's the foundation not only of many religions, but it is a field of study that many people interested in those functions like to go. And another thing that kind of lost track right here. Give me a second. Shamanism. So shamanism is ancient, you know. Shamanism are the people that were connected to Source. They were connected to Spirit a little bit more. And curiously, in many tribes, in many South American, North American tribes, which are the ones that I study the most. So I'll try to focus a little bit more on that. But they consider the people that were crazy, you know, to be the ones more connected to Source. And when you look at two things, one is schizophrenia, which is associated with seeing things out of reality. I love that. These are people that are more connected to Source. These are people that are seeing beyond the veil. And South American tribes, these people were seen as the future healers. They were seen as the ones that had connection to the spiritual world more strongly, versus our society, more recent history, looking at these people as outcasts and some people that should be secluded and isolated. That takes me back to Terence McKenna, which is one of the greatest advocates of psychedelics in history, that says that a shaman must shamanize. A shaman is a madman, a schizophrenic, that must continue to shamanize in order to remain sane. And I love that, because throughout my personal journey, understanding different shamanic states of mind, or the ability to connect to those spaces, has been something that has helped me a lot. Not only with my sanity in my relationship to reality, or the way people like to perceive reality, but also with my creativity. And that's what I wanted to get with you. Because creativity and shamanism, there are states, there are rituals, there are procedures that you can get into a trance. Some of them are to breathing. That's basically what meditation is, really. You're getting yourself induced into a trance. Trance meaning you're breathing, your mind's clear, you're connecting to a different spectrum of reality, or a different dimension, like people like to say. Dimension, what does that mean? Like in the beginning of the story, when I was high as hell, I was tapping into a different dimension. And with that dimension, there was creativity, which is something that our society tries to banish as much as possible with the education system, when they place people into a room with content that does not necessarily always enrich your soul, force you to be part of that institution, otherwise you're an outcast, or called retarded, or many other names. And then you have homework, and then you're plugging into a machine and watching content and being culturally doctrinated, which we can talk about culture, I forgot the word now, in another episode. But with that said, we don't value creativity. It's a society that wants you to be a sheep. And the sheep and the shepherd parody is interesting, because the shepherd does not always have the highest interest in the sheep. He's a shepherd for a reason. But with the creative process in shamanism, it's very interesting. For example, when people take DMT, or when they take ayahuasca, or when they go in spiritual journeys, that there is a marriage of imagination and spirit. And those substances, or the trances, are a bridge. Basically, the way your mind works, we're all having a spiritual experience. And every experience that you had are catered to you. And it's where religion and spirituality draw a line. Because religion, basically, like I said, it's someone spiritual experience. It's their It's their mind and their creativity reacting to the spiritual world or to reality itself, scripted and trying to be molded into you. In shamanism, not only you're assigned a spiritual animal or different guides, but those guides are catered to you. They're catered to your own psyche. They're catered to your own experience. They communicate to you. And that's why a lot of, I think it's Rumi that said, again, I'm horrible with that quotes from other people, but when they say you have to look inside to find the answers, it means that you have all that information in your mind. All the knowledge that you need is within you. It's within those mechanisms. It's within the creative process of your own psyche. And shamanism helps a lot to tap into that, to understand into that. Not only that, but to create figures, to create mechanisms that function within your reality, the way you perceive reality. You know, you look at, for example, how shamans dress, how they express themselves. You know, it's very unique because we are meant to be unique. We're meant to be an expression of our own selves, not a copy. You know, not to behave like everybody else. Social, cultural conditioning. That's what I was trying to say earlier. I'm sorry if I lost track of that. But who does that benefit? That benefit the people in power. Because they're individually benefiting from people being asleep. And tapping into those things, which I highly recommend. I'm not saying that, Diego, what do you mean? Like, I have to go in and take a bunch of psychedelics, and if that's what you feel called to, yes. If that's not your call, that's fine too. Another principle of shamanism is understanding how your body works, which really is the root of alchemy, because this machine right here is an alchemy machine. This that we call body. Whatever we put it in here, there's a different reaction, a chemical reaction. There's a different way your body's going to process. And unfortunately, in our food and our water, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And understanding your body perhaps goes beyond the traditional look of food. You know, it's belief in shamanism that you must consume different things, and I'll leave it open to you, to the interpretation of that, to communicate to a spiritual realm, which is basically everything around us. And it's proven that biological information is passed from life to life. But it's also proven that we don't tap into a lot of our potential. There's a lot of dormant knowledge within us that's being untapped. This is Dguima. I'll be around. Just want to come to talk to you about creativity, spirituality. I don't know if we got into any conclusion, but I'm pretty hope that I can shed you some light, some different aspects. Have a good one.